How does one can or process 120 pounds of apples by themselves? In this video, I'm going to walk you through how I do that process because I can't rely on anybody else to help me. Right after Christmas, a local produce stand was having an end of the season sale on produce, and I rushed over there and got 3 bushels of apples of Golden Delicious and Fuji for $36. Before starting any canning project, you want to make sure your kitchen is spotless and the stations are set up for you. So we have our cutting station, our clean sink, and our sauce maker hooked up to our KitchenAid, our scale to weigh out the apples, and a clean stove. And before you start the process, you want to get your recipe out and make sure you have all your ingredients and follow the steps correctly. So I like to go over the process by reading the book at least 2 or 3 times to let it sink in what I'm doing. I just want to make sure I'm following the directions carefully and not basing it off memory because I've been to goof up a couple times and pay for it in the end. So make sure you understand what you're doing. Let's take note of the blue jar at the bottom here. It says applesauce can be made without additional sugar. Use a juicy, sweet apple like Honeycrisp, Golden Delicious, Scala, or Fuji when omitting sugar from the recipe. And if you want to spice it up, try a batch or two with your favorite spice during the last 5 minutes of cooking. Red-skinned apples impart a rosy color to the applesauce if they are not peeled before cooking. Prefer a creamy yellow color. Peel the apples before cooking. And also, let's take note in the recipe that the recipe yields 6 pints or 3 quarts. And when I first read this recipe before I started, I said, why are we only processing enough apples for 3 quarts? Especially when I have 120 pounds to deal with. So I did one batch, like the recipe told me to, and discovered it's because so many apple slices fit into the pot. And I was using a 22-quart pot. You can also use your Instant Pot to cook down your apples, and it might be just as quick if you have a bunch of your friends just let you borrow their Instant Pots for a day. So I'm measuring out 3 batches of 10 pounds of apples. Next, we're going to make sure our sink is clean and ready to receive food in it, and I used Barkeeper's Friend to get it this shiny. We're going to wash the apples under running cold water, drain, remove stems and blossom ends from the apples, and we're going to peel the apples if desired, so it's not necessary according to the ball book. Cut the apples into quarters and treat the apples with fresh fruit to prevent darkening. I'm using a 1/4 cup of lemon juice to a gallon of water. Now that we've washed our apples in running cold water, we're going to remove the stems and the blossom end, and peeling is only necessary if you desire it. I'm going to run it through the food mill, so I think I'm just going to not do that because I have a lot of apples to do. And so we're going to quarter them, and I'm just going to cut out the core and anything that might not be a good eat. Since these were end of the season apples that I got for less than $10 a bushel. So I've also noticed that I seem to go faster when I cut them all at the same time, a few at a time. And just do the same thing to all of them at the same time. So now I'll just take the core out. And then and cut them in half and throw them in the pot. And that seems to be the best use of my time. So now I have 20 pounds of apples cut up, and I'll be ready for the next step then. Then after you're done cutting all your apple slices, then you want to drain that water off to get ready to cook them. This is my second batch of apples, and I'm putting it on the stove with the lid at medium heat. And so we're going to start cutting up our apples for the third batch. I'm done cutting up the apples, so now we need to go check our now let's check on our apples in here. I think they need another couple minutes here. And so we're going to put on the second pot. And we're going to add that 1 cup of water to our pot. I'm going to put it on the back burner here. I'm going to put it on the back burner, put the lid on, and see how fast that gets softened. We want to make sure we're stirring so don't stick. Every 10 minutes. All right, they are definitely soft at this point, since they're boiling hard, and I think they'll definitely go through the mill. So I'm going to transfer this pot over to the KitchenAid, and we'll get this through the sieve. And now I'm using my steam canner to fill up that third batch to get them soft. Since I have 2 water bath canners and 1 steam canner, I'm just multitasking by using all 3 pots to get this applesauce cooked. And before I run that first batch through the sieve, I'm just going to make sure my second batch is not sticking to the bottom and stirring frequently. And now let's get this first batch through the sieve. So I'm done pureeing the first 10 pounds, and it's got me roughly 5 quarts of puree. We're going to clean out the pot here, and we're going to put that back in it, and we're going to bring it back to a boil. We're going to check on our second batch of apples here, and they pretty much look done. So we're going to put those through the sieve right now and get our first batch of puree on the stove to get heated up. And so we're going to run our second batch of apples through the sieve. As soon as I get done turning off the KitchenAid mixer, I want to check on my applesauce that's getting hot to that boiling point, and also check out my third batch of softened apples and give them a quick stir so they don't get burnt. Next, I'm going to prepare my sink to get soapy water to be able to wash the jars that I've already previously canned of applesauce, and also to clean empty jars to fill up for the next canning session here. I'm using Dawn Professional Soap and white vinegar. Washing the jars after canning is such a vital part of canning because in my first couple years canning by myself, I missed this step with tomatoes, and let's just say the jars got a little hairy. So make sure you run the jars through the wash and make sure you get all around that neck. And make sure you're grabbing it by the lid to make sure that seal is good and tight. When it comes to canning, and if you ask me what my least favorite chore is part of the canning process, it might be washing the rings after you're done canning. I just dread it. Don't know why, I just do. But I love using my Norwex dishcloth to get them clean. And after I'm done washing the rings, I want to check on my applesauce to see if it's boiling yet. And you want to keep stirring it to get hotter quicker. And next, I'll be getting empty jars from the cellar and washing those a while. And before I do that, let's check on the softened apples to see if I can run those through the sieve when I get back upstairs with the jars. And it looks like they're ready for the KitchenAid. And I make it a process to always take the strainer apart and get it in that sink water as soon as I'm done pureeing whatever I'm pureeing. I do not like dried on food on my kitchen equipment. I used to dread cleaning this cone from the sieve, but now that I have that Norwex dish towel, anything that I put through there, it comes right out with that dish towel. I just love it for this reason alone. That I don't have to dread soaking that sieve overnight. With that dish towel, all food particles just come right out. Now I'm returning the apple pulp to the saucepan, and this is where you would want to add your sugar if desired, stirring until the sugar is dissolved. Then we're going to bring the applesauce up to a boil, which is 212, stirring to prevent sticking and maintaining a temperature at a boil at 212 while we're filling our jars. When you want to fill your jars, you want to station where you have all your utensils ready. So I have my canning funnel, paper towel, debubbler, canning ladle, your jar lifter, canning lids, and rings, and I just love using my paper towel holder to hold my rings on. Then it's time to put the water bath canner on the stove, half filled with water to get hot. We have our canning station all set up, and now we just have to fill our jars. I'm using quartz just because I like to bake with it. Let me know down in the comments what you like to bake with your applesauce, whether it be a quick bread recipe or cake or even pancakes. My mom used to use it as a oil substitute in baking. Now we want to debubble to get any trapped air out of there, because apples would naturally have air in them. And we want to measure a 1/2 inch headspace. Alright, then you want to wipe your rim. And I'm using for jar lids today. And you can use my coupon code Mennonite10 for 10% off your purchase. All right, this is ready for the canner. Lower the rack into simmering water. Water must cover the jars by 1 inch. Cover the canner and bring to a roaring boil. Process pints or quarts for 20 minutes. Turn off heat and remove cover. Let jars cool for 5 minutes. Remove jars from the canner. Do not retighten the bands if loose, and cool for 12 hours. Test the seals and label and store your jars. I hope this tutorial helps you better streamline your canning process or teach you how to make applesauce. Applesauce is just not a side dish or dessert. It can be used in many, many different recipes, whether it be for baking or side dishes, in quick breads, pies, and cookies or bars. Here's a playlist that you can check out and all my different recipes using applesauce. Take care and God bless. And remember, God gave you a great day. Now go do something great.